A little girl touches her protruding belly, her eyes glued to the beauty pageant winner on the TV screen ahead. She is filled with longing, repeatedly mimicking the winner's smile and gestures as if she too could be crowned and admired by all in the next moment. Yet her bulging belly and thick glasses seem to whisper to Olive that such dreams aren't meant for her, especially considering her far from normal family. Her father, an unsuccessful motivational speaker, spends his days proclaiming his theories of success to a sparse audience only to face his own midlife crisis without any real success. Her uncle, a former university professor, has been heartbroken and fired, leading him to a failed suicide attempt. Though he survived, his spirit was greatly damaged. Olive's mother plans to bring him home for a few days to recuperate.
I'm so glad you're still here.
Well, that makes one of us.
Due to doctor's orders to avoid sharp objects like knives and forks and the need for quiet 24-hour companionship, he is arranged to stay in his nephew's room. The nephew, determined to become a pilot, has vowed to remain silent until he passes the pilot exam. It's been 9 months of silence for him, his room adorned with a picture of Nietzsche, as he diligently trains his body for the future pilot exam. The uncle, curious, asks if the nephew ever plays with friends, to which the nephew writes on a note, "I hate everyone." Puzzled, the uncle asks about family members, and the nephew emphasizes everyone again. The grandfather is the most troubling of all, addicted to drugs and women, and recently expelled from his nursing home. With nowhere else to go, he returns to the family home, often cursing loudly over any dissatisfaction, leaving no room for others to speak. Yet he wholeheartedly supports Olive's dreams and even becomes her dance coach. Whenever the family wants to see Olive's performance, she insists it's up to her grandfather, who always says they need a bit more practice. The mother is perhaps the most normal among them, yet she's exhausted by the eccentricities of her family. One day, Olive receives thrilling news. She's passed the preliminary round of the Little Miss Sunshine competition. She screams with excitement, darting around the room, hastily packing her things ready to chase her dreams. Her father, seeing her excitement, faces a dilemma. The competition venue is over 1,000 kilometers away. Although the mother believes that nothing should dampen her daughter's dreams, the cost of flights is more than they can afford, and the father is reluctant to spend a large portion of their savings on what might be a lost cause. This leads to a fierce argument between the parents, which only ceases when Olive steps out of her room. Both parents want to preserve the beauty in Olive's heart and shield her from seeing their family fall apart. The grandfather suggests they drive there, and it's decided that he, as her coach, must accompany her to personally oversee her performance. With the uncle at risk of harming himself, the father considers leaving the brother at home to accompany him. However, this idea is quickly dismissed. One contemplating suicide and the other stubbornly silent, it would be too risky to leave them together. Furthermore, the brother refuses to leave the house unless allowed to enroll in flight school, which he agrees to after his mother promises to let him apply. Consequently, the entire family decides to embark on the journey together. Before departing, the father pulls Olive aside and questions her using his success theory. "If you think you can't win the contest, then there's no point in competing. Do you believe you can win the Little Miss Sunshine title?" Looking at her family, Olive confidently replies that she does.
Yes.
We're going to California.
The next day, they set off in the family's old bus. Olive, wearing headphones, reviews the music for her upcoming performance. What once seemed an unreachable dream is now only a step away. However, the journey is not as pleasant as imagined. The grandfather begins cursing incessantly as soon as they get on the bus, complaining about the cramped space causing him back pain. Not only that, but he also tries to impart his life philosophy to the brother. The father tells him to keep quiet, considering there are minors like Olive and her brother on board. Nonetheless, the grandfather continues to assert his views, leading to a heated argument between him and the father. Sensing the tension, Olive removes her headphones to ask what the fight is about, to which the grandfather bluntly responds, "Politics." Uninterested, Olive puts her headphones back on. Despite his rough edges, the grandfather is serious about protecting Olive's tender heart. During a rest stop with limited funds, they decide that each meal should not exceed $4 per person. Faced with a variety of choices, Olive reluctantly orders ice cream. However, her father dampens her spirits by pointing out that ice cream is high in fat and could lead her to gain weight, advising her to avoid high-fat foods if she wants to maintain a figure like Miss Snow. After hearing her father's words, Olive feels torn between her dream and her favorite food, unsure of how to choose. Her mother believes that Olive, being so young, should not have to bear such burdens, and that it's most important to be true to oneself without caring about others' opinions. Seeing Olive's dilemma, the grandfather picks up a spoon and starts eating the ice cream, followed eagerly by the uncle and brother. As the bowl quickly empties, Olive joins in and savors the moment. As they attempt to depart again, the bus suddenly malfunctions, unable to shift gears no matter how hard they try. In a moment of frustration, the father breaks the gear lever. The mechanic, after inspecting the bus, reports that they don't have the right parts for such an old model, and that ordering them would take 4 days. However, Olive's competition is the day after tomorrow, leaving them no time to wait for the parts. Seeing the entire family neatly gathered, the mechanic offers another idea. Although first and second gears cannot be engaged, the third gear and above still work. They simply need to push the bus to the speed needed for third gear to start. What follows is a comical scene on the highway, with the eldest grandfather standing by the door and the rest of the family pushing from behind. Once the bus gets moving, grandfather is the first to jump aboard. The youngest, Olive, follows, then the physically weak mother, next the relatively fit uncle, and lastly the always exercising brother. With the whole family's effort, they happily set off again. The minor mishap lightens the mood among the family members. In high spirits, the father starts to expound his theories on success again, dreaming of wealth if his upcoming book becomes a bestseller. Already disliking his theories, the already sullen uncle mocks him, and the two immediately engage in a fierce argument. If not for the mother intervening, it would have escalated into a major conflict. Amidst their verbal clash, the father receives a call from the publisher. Due to poor signal on the highway, he decides to return the call from a service area. Expecting to rise to fame and fortune, he is shocked to learn from the publisher that they are canceling the collaboration due to poor user feedback. This means all the savings they invested are lost, pushing him near bankruptcy. Meanwhile, Olive uses the break to practice her dance, and the brother takes the opportunity to exercise. The bored grandfather sends the uncle to buy some things, taking the chance to enter a convenience store with some cash. As the uncle is about to pay for a magazine, a familiar voice stops him. It's the person who once captivated his heart and nearly drove him to suicide. The uncle hastily tries to cover up his encounter with the man, but his efforts are in vain as the observant man questions him, "Since when did you start liking women?" and then leaves the convenience store. Watching his love interest walk away with a rival plunges the already depressed uncle into deeper despair. He angrily returns to the bus, tossing the magazine to the grandfather and remaining silent. Meanwhile, the mother learns about the failed book publication and starts complaining to the father. The already stressed father finally loses his temper, and after a fierce argument, they both retreat to the bus. After all, their primary focus now is to get Olive to her competition. Everyone on the bus is engulfed in their own emotions, making the atmosphere extremely tense. At that moment, the usually silent brother writes something down.
Where's Olive?
Suddenly, everyone realizes Olive isn't on the bus. She is outside the convenience store looking around. Seeing the bus return to pick her up, Olive smiles because once the bus stops, it's hard to start again. They have to let her run alongside the bus to hop on, which she does with the uncle's help pulling her aboard. The grandfather, aware of the father's failed book venture, quietly moves to the front seat. For the first time, he speaks affirmatively to the father. "You dared to take a chance, and that already makes your efforts much greater than most. I'm proud of you for taking risks." He then places his warm hand on the father's shoulder, offering comfort. Despite their frequent quarrels at crucial moments, the grandfather cannot bear to see his son suffer. This familial bond becomes the father's greatest solace as they continue their journey towards the evening sunset. That night, they arrive at a motel, where Olive and her grandfather share a room to continue practicing her routine. To keep an eye on the uncle who is at risk of suicide, he shares a room with the brother. As soon as they enter their room, the parents start arguing again about the divided responsibilities. The father, still resentful and hopeful, learns that the publisher's representative is nearby. He decides to meet him in person. However, just like his floundering career, he can't get the car moving on his own no matter how hard he tries. Left with no choice, he rents a motorcycle from the motel and speeds off into the night. He finally reaches the hotel where the publisher's representative is staying, pulling him aside by the pool to discuss why his book isn't selling. The blunt response leaves the father disheartened, and he rides the motorcycle back to the motel through the night. Meanwhile, the grandfather is teaching Olive the moves for her performance the next day. Just before bed, Olive suddenly asks him, "Can I really do it?" Aware of her own plain looks and not so slim figure, she doubts herself. But the grandfather reassures her, "In my eyes, you are the most beautiful girl in the world." Moved by his words, Olive bursts into tears. "I don't want to be a loser because my dad hates losers." Shocked by her words, the grandfather earnestly tells her, "The real losers are those who are too afraid of failure to even try. By having the courage to try, you are already a success." Comforted by these words, Olive smiles through her tears and falls asleep peacefully, unaware that this would be the last moment she would spend with her grandfather. The next morning, they discover that the grandfather has passed away in his sleep. The funeral home staff arrive promptly, handing the father a stack of forms to fill out before they can cremate the body. Staying to handle the arrangements would mean missing the afternoon competition. The father wants to go to the competition first and deal with the funeral later, but the staff object. The mother asks Olive if she could compete next year instead. Hearing this, the father is adamant that they cannot give up after driving over 1,000 kilometers. Giving up now would be the ultimate failure, and moreover, the grandfather's last wish was to see Olive compete. Resolute, he comes up with a bold idea: to take the body with them to the competition. The family is shocked by the father's seemingly crazy suggestion. Transporting a body without permission is illegal. However, with no better option and driven by the desire to fulfill Olive's dream, they decide to take the risk. Olive stands watch outside the curtain while her parents pack the grandfather's body in the room. The brother and uncle position themselves outside the window to assist. With a well-coordinated effort from the family, the grandfather's body is successfully hidden in the trunk of the car, and the family once again sets off on their journey. However, they hadn't gotten far when the car's horn began to malfunction, continuously beeping, attracting the attention of a traffic police officer. The officer signals the father to pull over for an inspection. The father's nervous demeanor raises suspicions, leading the officer to follow his gaze to the trunk, which he opens. The family holds their breath in fear. However, the lascivious officer is distracted by the grandfather's collection of risque magazines, and satisfied with his find, he leaves without noticing the body. As they continue their journey, Olive, trying to pass the time, conducts a vision test on her brother, unexpectedly discovering he is colorblind. a condition that disqualifies him from becoming a pilot. This revelation hits the brother like a thunderbolt, completely shattering his dreams. Realizing that he has wasted 9 months of effort, the brother becomes furious, kicking the car windows and violently hitting the seats, his face turning red with anger. Seeing his distress, the father quickly pulls over, and in a moment of high emotion, the brother finally speaks his first words in 9 months. Sitting on the grass, the brother cries bitterly. The mother tries to comfort him, but he rebuffs her coldly. He vents his frustrations on his family, accusing them of being failures. Seeing her brother in such pain, Olive quietly approaches from behind and wraps her arms around him, offering a comforting embrace. Although his own dream has been shattered, the brother realizes that Olive's dream still depends on the family's support. Not wanting to see the family's last hope turn into another failure, he finds the strength to stand up and rejoins Olive in the car. As they approach the competition venue, the father, nervous, accidentally speeds past the correct turn. With only 2 minutes left until registration closes and a 10-minute detour required, there's no other choice but to crash through a barrier and cut across a parking lot, successfully arriving at the destination by taking a shortcut. The uncle bursts out of the car and rushes to the registration desk. Despite their efforts, they arrive 4 minutes late. The person in charge refuses to register them, unaffected by the father's pleas. However, another staff member, moved by their plight, agrees to spend a few minutes to help Olive register. With his assistance, they successfully complete the registration. The mother takes Olive to the backstage area to prepare with makeup, while the father arranges with the funeral home staff to handle the grandfather's body. The brother and uncle head to the beach to chat, the brother expressing a wish to sleep until he turns 18 to avoid the pains of high school. However, the uncle advises him that it's the painful days that are most memorable, and that sleeping through his high school years would mean missing out on significant life experiences, which could be the most challenging and memorable times of his life. This realization helps the brother come to terms with his situation, understanding that perhaps life is meant to be lived through both its pains and joys. As Olive's performance approaches, she needs her family's support more than ever. However, at the pre-show display, it becomes clear that something is off. The other contestants are heavily made up and dressed provocatively. Their aesthetics and poses far too mature, making Olive with her modest belly stick out awkwardly. Her father, watching from below, frowns, feeling that a children's beauty pageant shouldn't be this way. In response, her father, brother, and uncle all head to the makeup room. They want to shield Olive from negative judgment and ridicule. But since it's Olive's competition, her mother asks for her opinion on whether she wants to continue, reassuring her that the family will be proud of her regardless. Olive doesn't speak but firmly removes her glasses, puts on a hat, and follows the staff towards the stage. Her family stops trying to dissuade her, choosing instead to rush to the auditorium to offer continuous encouragement. On stage, Olive declares that her performance is dedicated to her dearly beloved grandfather. When the music starts, Olive begins the routine her grandfather taught her. To everyone's surprise, it turns out to be a bold striptease. Olive dances energetically, but the audience finds it inappropriate and begins to walk out, their whispers of judgment and laughter filling the air. In her innocent world, this performance is a gift to her grandfather. As the audience sneers, her family stands against the current, rising to offer Olive the encouragement she needs. Judges immediately summon security to stop her performance, but her family doesn't stand by idly. They storm the stage, blocking the host and security, allowing her to continue dancing. Seeing Olive feeling awkward, her father slowly makes his way to the center of the stage and starts dancing to the lively music, soon joined by his daughter. The uncle also rushes onto the stage to join the revelry. The brother leaps onto the stage, followed by the mother. Now the family is inseparable, dancing freely, shedding the emotional burdens of their journey and societal prejudices against them. After the performance, the family is taken to the police station. The police offer a deal. As long as Olive never participates in any beauty contest in California again, they will be released without charges. The uncle agrees, suggesting they leave such contests far behind, affirming that their beauty doesn't need anyone else's approval. Olive's family fixes the van's door and the trunk, ready to head home. In the end, the father's project didn't succeed. The brother didn't become a pilot, the grandfather wasn't revived, the uncle didn't reunite with his lover, and Olive didn't win the contest. But all is well. Together again, the family pushes their car, running along as they start their journey home. Just like on their way there, they break through barriers, this time the barriers of a failing son's expectations. Waiting for them at home are no longer arguments and grievances, but a future filled with hope. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this.